Yesterday's Concert is a Flaming Handshake media production. Tinted shades of fading light colored the back of the room. Red, blue, green, and yellow. Those seated immediately beneath the oversized windows were stained in a glow of psychedelia. The windows towered above my 6-foot frame, leaving me feeling insignificant in their presence. It was like standing at the feet of God, yet most people walked by without a second glance. The floor creaked and groaned with each step. An outdated and well-stomped carpet lined the aisles. Night in and night out, thousands shuffled and stumbled on it. This flooring had seen better days, but no one was paying attention to the floors. They were looking at what sat on each aisle. It was a callback to Sunday mornings in the Deep South. Pews. Authentic 1950s small country church pews. You could almost hear the faint echoes of, "God bless you," and "How y'all doing?" quoted ad nauseum. Designed in a time before fast food and frozen pizzas, these cold, hard pews made it impossible not to get to know your neighbor. "Well, how y'all doing tonight? Mighty cold outside, ain't it?" The room smelled like every museum and place of antiquity I'd ever visited. It's that familiar musk that's oddly evocative of a grandmother's house. It wasn't abrasive, but it was unmistakable once the passing scent of clear-colored liquors drifted by. Nearing 130 years old, this room wasn't fancy. There weren't state-of-the-art amenities, nor was it wallpapered in obnoxious and oversized advertisements. As a concert hall, its half-moon shape made the room feel small. Except nothing about this room was small. If anything, it was colossal. This was the Ryman Auditorium, the mother church, the Carnegie Hall of the South. Originally built as a tabernacle in 1892, it eventually became host to one of the most important musical trailblazers in history, the Grand Ole Opry radio show. This was the show that before anyone was a someone in country music, they took that stage. It hosted some of music's most legendary names like Hank Williams, Dolly Parton, Elvis Presley, Loretta Lynn, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, the Carter Family, Patsy Cline, Chet Atkins, Ray Price, George Jones, and it almost feels unfair to stop there. As a music fan, it's a bucket list venue. It resides alongside venues in the caliber of Red Rocks, Alpine Valley, and Madison Square Garden. Every year, the venue's calendar is stacked top to bottom with noteworthy concerts. Even for artists, performing at the legendary venue earns an asterisk next to the date. This isn't an ordinary concert hall. It's not big box store amphitheater or some failing roadside club. If its legacy wasn't enough, the Ryman is still a road marker of success. And I've never stepped foot inside the building. Call me a hopeless romantic, but if I was going to let someone take my Ryman virginity, I didn't want it to be just any old somebody. Sure, plenty of touring artists come through every year and likely put on incredible performances, but this is hallowed ground. If I was going to give up something revered for something sacred, I needed it to be special. Welcome, concert goers, music fanatics, and cosmic country stars. My name is Lance Ingram, and in the Season 1, Episode 6 of Yesterday's Concert, our Jam Journal takes us to February 28th, 2019. Grab your earplugs as we go to the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee for Kacey Musgraves. The door to the smoking section flung open. That distinctive stench of cigarettes trailed inside on the coattails of the concert goer rushing to beat the band back from encore break. Shouts bounced around the room before a uniform chant for one more song broke out. Much to the crowd's delight, the band finally returned and saddled back up with their respective instruments. The keyboardist tinkered with his settings and motioned for the sound guy to give him a boost in his monitor. I leaned back onto the handrail as the door to the smoking section flung open again. More fans were flooding back into the room. I shifted to get a better view of the stage above the now forming traffic jam. My ears were peaked for what was next. The singer adjusted the mic, took a step back, and began lightly strumming his acoustic guitar. My Rolodex song catalog began flipping. Could it be Morocco? No, they already played that one tonight. What about My Own Mistakes? No, they played that one too. The guitar was sparse, haunting, and beautiful. I'd seen this band before. Many times before, actually. But I couldn't place the song. It sounded nothing like I'd heard the band perform. The singer stepped back to the mic, his voice barely audible above the crowd. The keyboard trickled in like melodic raindrops. After the first pass through the chorus, the full band came in. Many sang along like they'd heard the song 100 times before. Although I tried to stay current on Moon Taxi's new releases, this one must have slipped by. After the show, I stepped out of the New Daisy Theater and back into the autumn night sky. The sound of a pandering blues band hit a crescendo in a nearby bar. On a corner, a bachelorette party was having a twerk-off. But that song tugged at me like an unforgiving tick. I had to figure this out. The overly intoxicated and touristy type strolled around me as the obnoxious obstacle I'd become. All these distractions tried to pull at me from my mission. I had to know the name of this song. I typed in a few of the lyrics I could recall. Grandma cried when I pierced my nose. You know, the bar down the street don't close for an hour. The results were in. Slow Burn by Kacey Musgraves. I'd never heard the name before, but Moon Taxi's cover told me I need to give it a shot. I queued it up for my drive home, and 45 minutes later, I had finished streaming her most recent album, Golden Hour. To make bold statements is often irrational and irresponsible, but after my first listen of Kacey Musgraves, I was willing to be brash. Golden Hour is an instant classic. It has a timeless quality akin to Joshua Tree, Rumors, or Hotel California. The Moon Taxi cover and album opener, Slow Burn, was just the start of this fantastic piece of storytelling. Mixing psychedelic cowboy sensibilities with catchy pop hooks, it was top to bottom perfection. This was the kind of album that I'll still be raving about in 20 years. Golden Hour is nothing like I'd ever been obsessed with before. I've got no qualms with female-led pop country. In fact, I'm discovering that I like it more than I ever realized. It's just not my normal cup of tea. But this album wasn't just a normal cup of pop country tea. This cup of tea was dosed with high-grade LSD, Owsley's special batch. None of that Woodstock brown acid. It only took a couple of listens to Golden Hour before I was hounding the internet for tour dates. I had to see this magical album live and in all of its glory. The closest Kacey was coming was Nashville. 4 consecutive nights, actually. And not just any performance in the city. These shows were at the Ryman Auditorium. The entire run was already very sold out, with secondary market prices starting at triple face value. After decades of building up the Ryman's prestige to levels of unreasonable expectations, I was unsure if any show, even an instant classic like Golden Hour, could be worthy of my Ryman V card. With such excessive prices, I decided I'd have to catch Kacey next time she came to town. Until then, I continued saving myself for that perfect Ryman experience. Then I listened to Golden Hour again, and one more time for good measure. With every additional spin, the more those overpriced tickets started to seem worth it. Completely oblivious of her rising star and recent Grammy nominations, I watched ticket prices increase for weeks. Then one Friday afternoon, destiny shined on me. A lone ticket appeared, an aisle seat on the second row of the balcony. No secondhand seller, no premium pricing at all for face value. Ticketmaster tried to warn me that I'd be going to the show alone, but that didn't matter to me. Add to cart, input credit card, purchase confirmed. That ticket is all mine. Like a blushing beauty on prom night, I was equal parts giddy and nervous. I was going to my first concert at the Ryman. Get that V card ready for punching. A few days later, I watched Kacey sweep her Grammy nominations. That's when the gravitas of the purchase hit me. This girl's forecasted popularity just ripped through the stratosphere. 4 sold-out nights at the Ryman Auditorium, and easily could have been more. Here I was just wanting to see a decent show at a legendary venue, and Kacey goes and wins 4 Grammys, including Album of the Year for Golden Hour. She should have been headlining arenas. What had started as wanting my first time to be special suddenly turned into seeing one of 2019's most celebrated artists in one of America's most revered concert halls. My fingers ran along the coarse crevices of the bumpy red brick exterior. The grooves and ridges of the brick sent my hand bobbing like waves. Streetlights flickered into existence against the downtown Nashville sunset and reflected on the towering buildings. Strolling by, I stopped to admire the red, yellow, blue, and green pattern of each window. No two were alike, and it was like comparing a Van Gogh and a Da Vinci when trying to pick a favorite. I stopped occasionally for pictures before quickly putting my hand back on the building in fear it had vanished like something out of a Marvel movie. I wandered to the backside of the venue where an oversized tour bus was parked. A few crew members lounged against the building smoking cigarettes. They ignored my nods and continued puffing. In their eyes, I was just another fan trying to get backstage. And they were absolutely correct, I was. Nothing too bad about me grabbed their attention. Oh, to have boobs. It was still several hours before Kacey would take the stage. And while many fans were enjoying dinner and drinks on Broadway, Nashville's version of Beale or Bourbon Street, I couldn't wait to get inside. I lined up in the cold with the diehards hours before the doors opened. But once inside, while those fans rushed to the merchandise stand, I bypassed it all, straight to my seat. Let me soak in all the ghosts of that hollowed hall. But before I could get to my seat, I was stopped in a small brick hallway, barely large enough to fit 5 people between the doors. The hall walls were lined with prints of past performances. Stretching from classic country to modern indie rockers, I marveled at the name and dates of those classic shows. "We're not sure where our seats are. Do you mind showing us?" The young woman handed the usher her tickets. "Follow me," he said as they entered the room. In her absence, a part of the postered wall was exposed. The granddaddy name of them all. Bruce Springsteen. December 12th, 1996. This wasn't up-and-coming singer-songwriter Greetings from Asbury Park Bruce Springsteen. This was the boss. This was an artist 3 years out from being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. An artist who had another album go gold the year before. Sure, Bruce was in the midst of a theater tour, but he didn't just play any room in Nashville. He played on that stage. The print was a well-worn reminder of any artist's desire to play that stage. The ghost of music history still lingered in its sacred halls. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need help finding your seat?" The usher snapped me back to reality. Still stuck daydreaming about Bruce, alone, acoustic guitar propped on his knee and singing on that stage had left me speechless. I handed the usher my ticket and followed him into the room. "You're right here." The usher pointed to an aisle seat and began climbing the stairs back to his post. The wooden planks wore into my back. It was hardly comfortable. The back was upright like some kind of crazed posture disciplinarian. My knees smushed against the row in front of me. It was like a toddler in a church service. Nothing could keep me still. My mind fought to remember I was waiting for a raucous concert and not a gospel revival. When my seatmates arrived, they squeezed in shoulder to shoulder against me, and we became fast friends. It was impossible not to in those close quarters. A married couple in their 50s, they were both born and raised Nashvillians. During the opener, an artist I didn't particularly find inspiring, I reveled in the room's acoustics. Highs and lows, clear instruments, and only the good kind of reverberation. Sure, there are rooms that sounded better out there, but none have the spirit like this one. It was uncomfortable and dated, but I drank in every ounce of it. Fans squealed as shadow monsters took shape. There was no microphone at the front of the stage, but the shifting figures roamed in the darkness. Smartphones began illuminating the pitch-black room. That first moment had to be captured for the gram. A giant spotlight silhouetted a figure at the back of the stage. It crept slowly and gracefully to a microphone stand. Barely audible, the light strokes of an acoustic guitar could be heard intermittently over the screaming crowd. The discomfort of the hard-wooden pews was erased as the only way to see the stage anymore was to stand. Born in a hurry, always late. Words crept from the speakers. Albeit softly sung, the announcement boomed. The predominantly female audience roared before quickly shifting gears into a sing-along. It was like Moon Taxi Part 2. Still draped in shadows, the figure continued to lightly strum an acoustic guitar. The crowd reaction did not reflect the subtlety of the performance. Tapping lightly, the drummer joined the chorus. A flash of lights exploded from the stage. For a second time, the crowd roared and completely drowned out the music. When my eyes finally adjusted from the flash grenade, the stage was properly illuminated, with the band in matching brown suits. It was like a country pompadour scene from the Grand Ole Opry's heyday. Standing on the top riser at the back of the stage, the Model S singer reigned over her subjects. Tall, slender, and beautiful, a small smile cracked the edge of her lips. Her high pony and the bell-bottoms of her floral jumpsuit swayed as she leaned into the music. The outro notes of Slow Burn were still echoing in the room when the band transitioned directly into the trippy pop country banger, Wonder Woman. Kacey shed her guitar and approached the lip of the stage. "What up, Ryman?" The stage lights danced against the giant glass windows like the fire of a sacrificial ceremony. Maybe it's because in a past life the Ryman was a tabernacle, but there was a spirit moving amongst the room. Hands in the air, voices straining to project, and bodies swayed in rhythm with lovers and friends. This may have been the first congregation I'd seen guzzling beer and singing songs about tripping on LSD while falling in love. Was this church or a concert? The freaking Ryman, man. Kacey grabbed the microphone with both hands and with the grace of no rock star I've ever seen, leaned into a vicious yell. Nashville, how you doing tonight? I've heard packed out arenas quieter than this crowd. As we all know, the Ryman is a very sacred and special space. I've been waiting to really blow it out until we got home. I've been looking forward to these shows for a very long time. In the following concerts I've seen at the Ryman, every artist has similar comments about the stage. They talk about the prestige, the legacy, the vibe. As a fan, it's the sort of rah-rah concert hype that is the stuff of stadium rock legends. Whether Kacey pandered to every audience in similar fashion, I have no clue, but this one felt authentic. It had to be. Now everyone, stick your middle fingers in the air. Alright, now we're ready. Drinks spilled, elbows bumped, fingers shot to the sky. Fingernail polish shimmered in the burning stage lights. Was this some sort of Rage Against the Machine protest? Some fans flipped both birds, while others awkwardly laughed at the Southern hospitality no-no. This was a church after all. My 50-something Nashvilleian neighbors took their fingers skyward and laughed like people do when they haven't done something fun in years. It set the stage for Bulls on Parade or maybe some kind of alt-country protest ballad. Nervous excitement awaited what kind of ferocity the tall beauty would unleash from the sacred stage. She nodded to her band, the banjo plucked and the drums tattered. It was the trip over your own feet love ballad Butterflies. Girls squealed with joy and danced with their middle fingers still outstretched. This was the sweetest rebellion ever. The true rebellion did finally come though. After the band finished the synthy pop Oh What a World, the first strike hit. Then it hit again. It started as a few raps against a pew and quickly escalated into a full-blown coming-of-age tribal ritual. It was a drum circle without a hippie in sight. No longer waving their middle finger in the air, fans beat the wooden pews relentlessly. These weren't grandma's antiques anymore. The pews were our tools of anarchy. It was a symphony worthy of the rowdiest sporting event and sounded like the chaotic rhythm of New Orleans street performers tapping on 5-gallon buckets. Those not banging a pew stomped the wooden floors. Some did both. It was like Godzilla-sized raindrops hitting a tin roof. Kacey laughed awkwardly at the tip of the stage. She looked back to her band, unsure of how to keep the show moving. The crowd was losing it. Each time she'd lift the mic to her mouth, the beat grew louder. She hadn't even gotten to the hits like Rainbow or High Horse yet. This went on for several minutes before she reined the crowd back in. We didn't want another sing-along. We wanted in on the action. It's been a crazy year, but the last few weeks have been utter insanity. And I feel like a really lucky gal, Kacey told us once we settled down. At any point in an artist's career, 4 consecutive sold-out shows at one venue, regardless of size, is an impressive accomplishment. But this run wasn't just another impressive accomplishment for an artist whose star was skyrocketing. This was a victory lap. After sweeping our categories at the Grammys, a wildly successful album, nearing the end of a sold-out tour with another on deck, the spotlight was literally and figuratively on Kacey. Even with 2 albums in her back catalog, this was also Golden Hour's moment to shine. Kacey performed every song from her Album of the Year recipient. This meant there was little room on the set list for reminiscing. While it's not uncommon to thickly layer new material on an album tour, those sets rarely consist of the new album in its entirety, or at least shows that are as widely received as this one. But that was the thing. For her fans, Golden Hour is the foundational album that people wanted to hear. These were the songs that sent eager fans rushing to pack the mother church. The songs on the first 2 albums were fine, but it was the older songs like Family is Family or High Time that gave people a chance to hit the restroom. But most never moved an inch, unless it was to make more room for dancing in the aisles. The disco country hit High Horse faded from the amplifiers and fans flocked back into the miserably cold Nashville night. But I hung back. My eyes readjusted to the overhead lights as the high of the concert still kicked like adrenaline. I wanted to see the room one more time. I knew I'd be back, I just didn't know when. Now that the cherry had been popped, this would be another venue in my rotation. Except it could never be just another venue. It would always be the Ryman, a venue that earns an asterisk. A stage that Bruce Springsteen played, a marker for our musical forefathers, a stage that you could still make a name on. For Kacey, her name was made weeks earlier when the world took notice at the Grammys. But those 4 nights were a launch pad for a successful year of headlining performances and standout festival gigs. For me, it'd be another 9 months before I'd see Kacey Musgraves in concert again. This time I was surrounded by more than 20,000 fans, just a few more than last time. I sat in the Bridgestone Arena club level with my wife and watched a show designed for an arena. I felt every inch of the distance from the stage. Rather than watching the stage, the best view is watching the screens. What I saw was largely the same show, albeit more lights, camera, and action. But it wasn't the same Kacey. This was a superstar, an arena headliner, someone who made a name for herself. Another noteworthy name that had played the Ryman. I'm Lance Ingram, and this is Yesterday's Concert. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Sources and more info on today's show are available on our website, yesterdaysconcert.com. While you're there, connect with Yesterday's Concert, sign up for our e-newsletter, or jump over to Facebook or Instagram and give us a shout at Yesterday's Concert. And until next time, take care of your shoes.